This computer hooked up to the internet yesterday, and so I just pulled this one out.
The whole last meeting, it kept going out or having weird things pop up or it just close itself. I was like, what is going on?
I am disconnected from the county website.
Well, and I had to restart the computer too.
It's your sister's dissertation.
Yeah, I think she just did it for some class or
I
something.
that's what she wrote.
Where?
I'd be
Come out today and, I'll make it.
okay, yeah, do.
She ended, I know she didn't graduate from school.
Oh.
But, but she's still just.
Yeah. Well, my sister-in-law did her dissertation in literature and chose, I think she chose 8 different women.
Okay.
And I mean, my sister-in-law did that. She did them so thoroughly. Her dissertation is 2 volumes about this.
Wow.
And lots of footnotes and stuff. And it's fascinating. It's always been one of my interests.
Well, and as I was reading too, it always then talks about, even in her book, like other books, or, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, oh, let me go and look, you know, and so then you start finding out about.
Oh, man, you got rabbit trails all over
Yes.
the place.
More, so we would do 6:30. Yeah.
Good. 2 spots left, and my son and daughter-in-law.
Christmas.
Yeah, it's a hair chain.
Oh, okay.
Put it on description,
Yeah.
on, let's put them together, they were, stable them together and a long chain and hang around the room.
Okay.
It's every 30 minutes during the week.
Right. Yeah, somebody else. Okay, but you actually do it with a physical manifestation.
Mhm.
Interesting.
We got her singing.
And I'd be surprised how many of these men get up and go find who's praying for me.
Oh, is that right? Oh, wow.
A lot of times I'll come back and say, you know, this person has my grandmother's name.
Oh, wow.
This is for the person inmates here.
Well, this is in, Butler Unit, Medium Security Inspector. It's in our. Yeah, so it's medium security, they've got a maximum and a medium security. No, at Tucker.
Oh, they have,
Prison.
Tucker and Tucker mix, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew they had one coming straight down south.
Yeah, they got to come in, we have a team that works coming, we have a
There's
team.
no cheat on it, it's coming.
Yeah.
Coming, yeah, and we have I lived close to coming Georgia one time.
Oh, yeah.
And we have one that works at 9 o'clock and And we have one.
There's some prisons
women-
on block too, don't they?
Well, there's one,
Administrative offices, what used to be the diagnostic, which are going to be intake.
and then there's, what is McPherson is a women's prison, we have a women's team that works. in that.
I think the women are at the top there. But, you know, they have been in high blood for years. And then they moved.
Yeah, well, now that we've worked McPherson for years, McPherson may be in Pine Bluff, I'm not sure.
I think that's near Malvern.
Okay. Well, I know there's a prison near Melbourne, maybe one.
I believe that's the
Most of the prisons in Arkansas are well south or east of us. There's one in Calico Rock, which is north central. And we started a team there just before COVID. I think they got 2 weekends in and then COVID hits. This is the first time we've had one at Tucker since it's been 3 years.
all the prisons are in southeast Arkansas, because they were originally prison farms.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that
They
makes
still,
sense.
they still do a little farming there. All the work that the prison does.
Especially in some countries,
Mm.
not so much the others.
Are they self-sufficient when it comes to the farming? No, it doesn't provide enough.
There he is.
Get up. You in court today?
Yeah, no. Got this in prep. Dressed up for all you guys, Tim.
Oh,
It's about time.
okay, well, let's start this meeting. Give you a minute. Minute.
Yeah. the minutes are fine.
Okay, we will accept the minutes as presented and move on to LNA certification.
So we have completed the testing for all of the voting equipment and ran everything through. We also completed our public test as well. We had 30 people in attendance for that, and so I'm really happy.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
great.
it went, went really well. Kind of just going over how the equipment worked, letting, the voters that were there ask questions, and even kind of looking through the equipment and vote a couple of ballots, everything. So it was really, our turnout for that. So, but this does require a commissioner's signature, and then the back pages shows the 0 results, and then the results will be read into the election
Okay,
computer, and then we will file this with the county clerk's office. If we, when we do one for the primary election, we have this turnout of 80 people can come in here.
yeah, it's gonna take some time to get it all done, isn't it? You
Well,
go ahead and sign
for a
that
public
once
test,
you look at it.
so yeah, if we have as much interest.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
Well-
our logic and accuracy for the primary, probably take us 2 weeks. 2 to 2.5 weeks to do.
wow.
And it will depend on the number of presidential candidates
Mm.
is the big
Yeah,
determining factor
right.
of how long it takes to do, so.
Well, it's nice that you don't feel like you're doing it in the dark anymore.
Right.
There are people who actually. Bravo. Okay, poll worker notice.
So this is the notice, the list of poll workers who are available to work the November 14th election. I also have one for the December 12th runoff, just in case. Because there's very little time to get this signed and posted in between. So the poll workers who are all listed here include anyone who works the May 9th election. there's more workers than what we need, but if we have to have fill-ins, it makes it very easy because they're on this list and we can use them from this list. So this would be, your notice that has to be posted in the county clerk's office. So there's 2 documents here for you to sign. I do also have included in this list, for American Legion, we will have a brand new crew at American Legion.
Oh,
No, well, we've never opened this in one place before. Joe Dunn, who would be the supervisor, is an experienced supervisor, and he is a great recruiter. And so he has recruited a team of mostly retired military spouses, who go to American Legion. Their names are included on this as well, so that they can go on election day and set up for a couple of hours to kind of see, you know, how everything goes. They came in for training yesterday. So,
the election. Well, good. Always good to have some new folks and.
Well, these part of everybody.
it does. And then I'll have, and then of course, we have the county clerk to sign it as well. And then with your permission as well, it's not included on this list, but, because they won't actually be handling anything. One of the commissioners from Johnson County would like to come and shadow me during the Angela slot,
Yeah.
during the day, because she's going to be the coordinator there. And she just kind of, she's close enough.
Yeah.
So she just wanted to kind of just see some of the ins and outs, but we don't know much today, but with your permission, she will be with me, but she won't handle.
I was gonna say, she's not listed on here.
She's not listed on there because she won't be handling ballots, she won't be touching anything, but she will be there to.
Okay, super. Rush. Okay, next item is a resolution allowing the county clerk access to absentee materials.
So we have signed this resolution once before. I have updated it for the remainder of this year and for 2024. The recommendation from the State Board of Election Commissioners was that you just do it for a 2-year period. Because your commission might change, and that way your commission is not, you know, set. The one other thing I did add to this from the one that we have used previously was storage. And during canvassing, we most likely will store the absentees that we have canvassed in the county clerk's office for the primary and the general election, rather than shuffling them down here and back and forth. Obviously, with the clerk's office, we'll be able to safely, securely store them in her office. But technically, since we have canvassed them, without this document, we would not be allowed to take them back to her office. So this gives Becky's office, the county clerk's office, permission to store, handle, canvass. If we have any questions, for them to actually touch the absentee ballots.
And that sounds pretty cumbersome overall, moving.
Well, that,
You had to move them down here.
yeah, we had to move them and then take them.
Yeah, I agree.
And since for that election, the primary and the general, she had early voting in her office,
Yeah.
she has the space
Yeah.
to do that. For this small election that we're doing in November, we're only gonna canvass the day of the election, because right now I think we have maybe 15 absentee ballots. And so we'll just pick them up Monday evening after the polls close, bring them to us, and then we'll take them over there. But we went ahead and prepared like a chain of custody document, documenting the path that this box has taken.
Speaking of that, is there another name that we need to use on that chain of custody thing? Because I seem to recall that there was some reluctance in calling it that. You remember that?
Yeah, I kind of did.
Is there a better term for that?
I think the,
Transportation protocol, I don't know.
you know, I think,
Or maybe because it is,
What are they using the statute?
they,
they refer to chain of custody.
oh, they do,
Mhm.
okay, okay,
And I think they did it to be a chain of custody.
okay. I
From what
I
based on
just
what the
understood
questions
there was some discomfort about that
I think
term.
there were some questions regarding whether that term has an actual definition and the
Oh,
answer is
that's
it
what it
does
was.
not. There's
Yes.
no legal definition. of chain of
Okay.
custody. It
Okay.
does not exist.
So
It's
should we,
different standards depending on what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Precedent-
Criminal law, civil, whatever.
okay,
There's precedents in court, the types of things that are acceptable.
I think we should, let's not get down into
I- I-
too much, you know what I mean?
yeah,
All I would say when I question it is, you know, if it's if it's a chain of custody, then we've got to follow it to the letter of the law. If it's not, then, you know, maybe.
Since there is no letter of the law.
Sure, yeah, it's, anyway, I feel like we have a good protocol, right? If you came up with a
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
protocol.
So, tell me, if you don't mind, remind me of why, I know it's necessary because of this law,
Mhm.
this part of the statute. But I don't understand, I guess, why the statute says that it's why it is just not a natural thing that we can do. I mean, what was the reason behind this?
So in 2020, in another county, there was a question about where the absentee ballots were being handled. And there was absentee ballots being transported back and forth, but not in a manner, or it allowed for the absentee ballots to get out of count, basically. You know, they were off ballots and then they located ballots and so it was to, like, once they're in the election commission's hands,
Mhm.
that's the only entity that should be handling them.
Peanut gallery comment is just another, idea or another thing that everybody has to pay for one person's error.
Yes.
That is correct.
And
Yeah.
it makes it tricky for counties that are really small.
Oh, yeah.
Well, sure, they have a few people doing it all.
Right, and it could be even the clerk's office that is
Yeah.
canvassing absentee ballot.
Yeah.
You know, so they would have to sign this document, the commission,
Right.
you know, and so it does make it tricky, especially for really small counties.
Yeah.
You know, about storage. They may store all their election materials in the clerk's
I'm
office.
sure that may be the only office they even have.
Yeah. So, but it is a law that was written based on something that happened in previous elections.
we laws are written that way.
As soon as you said that.
Okay, ballot draw notification for party chairs.
So I did not look it up, but Lou Reed Sharp is still the party chair for the Democratic
Yes.
Party, and Brian Lester is still the party chair for the Republican Party. Okay. We are required by law to notify the party chairs in writing, when the ballot draw is 10 days before. This is obviously way before, but it's one of those things that's easy to miss. And
Oh,
I thought
especially.
especially because we're gonna be canvassing and counting an election and all of that, I thought, let's go ahead and get these documents signed so that I can get that out to the party chairs. The ballot draw is set for December the 5th at 9 o'clock and in the form courtroom.
Ballot draw set for when?
December the 5th,
Got it.
and
For
it,
March the-
Yeah. I see for the March
Yes.
5th primary.
Yes.
but, December 5th, okay.
and we will go to the quorum court for that meeting just because. of
Yeah, good.
The potential, you know,
Right.
for candidates, so.
That seems great.
So you've already reserved that.
Yes.
Okay.
Barefoot.
that would be a nasty trick, Tom.
Oh, my goodness. I don't think I'd be here.
I don't think the deputies would be super happy with this either.
This old boy on the way to bed.
Okay. Review of the offsite early vote for the 2024 election year.
So if we start in Springdale, the Nazarene Church is available for us for early voting, which is on 40th and Chapman, which is in that southern part of Springdale, closer to Johnson. I mean, if you're familiar with where it is, it's really easy to get to. You just go to Doc Tyson and then up on 40th and Chapman. So for voters who do live in Johnson and want to early vote, it is a really good, easy, convenient location for them. And even voters that live in this part of Fayetteville as well. I know that I go to, there's a neighborhood market
Yeah.
that's close to there
Sure.
and it's easy to get to. And so this area, I think, would benefit. It's also a election day site as well.
Good.
Oh, it is.
It is,
Yeah,
yes. So it, you know, that helps us out in the fact that it is an election day site. So they are available for us for limited early voting for this election, for the primary. They would be available for us for the general election as well. Arvest would be available for us during the general election. So before that election, we'll need to make a decision.
See how it goes.
Yeah. So. But that would be Springdale, and then in Fayetteville. We were able to locate a church on Weddington. It's called the Unity Church. I think I sent you a link to it. I'm sure if you looked at it.
I did.
It is very close to where
Yes,
Covenant
it
is. It does have nice parking area. The space inside is better than what we have in Covenant because they're going to let us use their chapel area. And so we would actually have more room than what we have in Covenant. And they were very excited for us to be there.
Yeah.
That's good.
So she did ask about election day, but we shouldn't move from Covenant to move to Unity. I think that Covenant is an established place unless, you know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should see how it goes maybe with this site, but I think we should think about
It is
something in
something,
the future.
yeah. Now, if parking for election day is not as big as Covenant's. So I will preface it with that. For early voting, it is completely sufficient, but parking for election day, Covenant has a little bit better parking. And on election day at Covenant, we're in a bigger space. We just can't occupy that space during early vote, because of church and everything. But, they are happy to host us. I've reached out to a couple other places, still haven't heard back, and I feel like if we're continuing to chase down and we don't get responses back from sites,
Yeah,
you know, I feel like we did settle on a site.
sure.
And Unity I called, left a message, they called me back the next day, and we met that next day.
You want someone responsive and
Yeah.
excited about doing it.
Right,
I
yeah.
wouldn't see any problem going forward, you know, in the future to use Unity for
Instead of coming.
early vote and Covenant for election day.
Yeah.
They're close together.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. I mean, it's easier for the poll workers to not have to move the equipment.
Right.
And then also it could be less confusing for voters if they know it's, you know, early vote here. Oh, I've been seeing the sign every day. I've been meaning to go out there.
Yeah.
And, oh, today's my last day. I need to vote, but, oh, it's not there.
But where is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about it.
Well,
Just see
and
how it goes.
that's what I think too. Let's get through the primary and then, because whatever we set for the primary, is not what we have to do for the
Right.
general. So just kind of keep that in mind too. And then, of course, we went with Farmington. And I know I had this on the list last time. They're more than happy to host us for limited early voting.
Good.
And with the potential to expand dates for the general, and that's something I kind of wanted to visit with you about.
Yeah.
The time frame for the primary, and keep in mind the voter turnout for a primary election and expanding to the general. So I don't know if there's any other suggestions or places, or do these look good for the commission for early vote sites?
I think it's terrific. Our big concern was getting something on Weddington particularly. And I appreciate your bulldogging this, because I know it is frustrating when it seems, I mean, there's so little available out there anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I wish Unity was a little bit closer into 49. You know, like something that's a little bit closer, just for visibility factor of people coming and going and seeing signs, and I know you'll put some stuff in between, but I think it's great. It's got a location there.
They actually have a big sign in front of their church.
Yeah, but I mean, people aren't driving out.
Whoops.
You know, so many people are jumping off 49 and live just in that area right by the interstate.
Yeah,
They're not seeing it unless.
Well,
they're
there's
driving out
a whole lot more people that are going 16, because there's more homes being built out there.
there. Yeah, than it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just having a sign there, the visibility will begin to impress people, I think.
No, I think it looks great. The only thing I'll say is looking at it and thinking, we don't have to do it for this election. I know you looked at it. The only area where you have tons of people driving, coming and going is between southern Springdale and northern Fayetteville. And we talked about it, the mall area, you know, right in between where Johnson, Springdale and Fayetteville connect. You just have a lot of people in North Fayetteville, and you have a lot of people commuting down and up on 71 that if you could get a spot
Right.
on there, you would have huge turnout.
Yeah.
Just because of the number of people coming and going. That's the only other area that's kind of a hole, you know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
Close,
Well,
not
not
close
close.
enough.
not
and we
close
can
enough.
double down on looking for a site for the general, because keep in mind, for the primary,
Yeah,
the turnout obviously is lower than what you see for general election, and even early vote is lower. And it has been that way statistically. I look back at the numbers, and I think that, you know, the sites we open really are just a prelude to what we're gonna do for the general election, because the voter turnout just isn't there for early vote in the primary election. And it may even be less depending on, you know, the Democratic side of the ticket, how many contested races will there be? The Republican side of the ticket, how many, you know,
Sure.
presidential, yes, we know, but further down, how many will there be? And so that kind of impacts the voter turnout as well.
We ever had any conversations with Springdale Country Club about?
No, I have not had any conversations with Springdale Country Club.
That's a good question.
It's right there on that corridor.
Yeah,
It's right.
It sure
right on
is.
the line between
Springdale
Fayetteville and
and
Springdale.
Yeah.
Right on the exit point.
Mhm.
It's, they have some place.
So there's potential for us to be in the mall, not for this election.
Oh.
There is a church being built in the mall.
In the mall.
Sears.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I still don't understand where it's at, because there's a gym there right now. So well, they're still selling membership. Is all I know. So,
Well,
so that's, and my son went there and to look at a membership, so that's how I know they're still selling memberships. So that's like, a pie in the sky kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Springdale Country Club would be a potential site to look at. The mall one is a little bit trickier.
Unless the church is just really willing to do it.
Right.
I mean, you have no problem with
And
parking.
no, you wouldn't have any problems with parking, but now the church may be under restrictions from the mall to not allow certain activities. You know, so
Yeah.
I have reached out to the mall before,
Right.
because they do have empty spaces in there, a lot of empty spaces. But they were not willing to host us,
Yeah, they
at all.
kind of
This is
shut that
all-
down real quickly.
Yeah,
didn't
they did. So I don't know if, when the church, you know, if it'll have
Yeah.
some type of limitation, we'll have to just watch that. But the Springdale Country Club would be a site to look at. Is that a site you want me to look at for this election or for the general?
I don't know, I'm not sure if, like, you know,
I'm not maker. You think we ought to ask?
Well, I'm looking at the location where you said we're kind of blank there.
yeah,
And that is right in that location, which might mean,
Should be about right here. No, not right here.
it's before it turns to the west, right?
if we're looking, I think we should really look at all the options. in
Yeah.
that Whole area and really check it out, and whether we need to this election or not, I don't know.
So, well, and that's what I wanted to.
Maybe for the, maybe.
But
for the fall.
definitely for the general, I think,
Yeah,
for sure.
All I'm saying is I'm really.
but you
talking
could
about
give it a
the general.
test.
You're
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about the
got
general.
it, got it, got it.
Okay,
I think it's worth a look.
Mhm.
They've got space and I think the space is empty a lot. I don't think it's empty a lot.
Yeah.
Most people going over there to play golf. And
Yeah,
in this space and sitting right there.
that's right.
Right on the east end of the building.
Yeah, I've been in that room, I've had events there, yeah, that could work.
Yeah, just give them a call and fill them out on it.
I will. And it may be too that if someone has no, Lacey, did you? Okay. Oh, yes, you do, don't you? Okay, we'll go through that avenue. Sometimes if I make cold calls, it's, you know.
Oh, yeah,
But if
yeah.
I've got a connection to get in,
Right.
we'll start down that path of looking for the general. Right now, though, for the primary is what I have presented, is this, are we satisfied with this set of sites?
Yeah, there was only one thing that is kind of in the same vein of, you know, a corridor that a lot of traffic goes up and down.
Right.
Recent, kind of a semi-in-depth look at, voting tendencies between Vale and Springdale. Is obvious, more obvious to me now than ever. I knew it was there, but I didn't know it was this major, is the, compared to population, the percentage of registered voters in Fayetteville almost doubles the
Yeah.
percentage of registered voters in Springdale.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, well, where are the registered voters within Springdale? And are we serving them specifically, or are we serving areas where people are not registered that much?
And did you get an answer?
I haven't got an answer yet.
That's like a piece of paper that's gonna show us that. I do, okay, yeah, I printed out like our polling places and the registered voters around those polling places. So we can take a look at that when it gets into like election day and things like that, but yes. It is kind of surprising when you do look at it, their population sizes are very similar, but the actual number of registered voters. Fayetteville is over 20,000 more than Springdale. And
Well,
so,
I mean, I just go search, Fayetteville was 96,000 population, Springdale was like 85,000 or something. Fayetteville's, registered voters was in the 60,000 range, Springdale's was in the 35,000.
Mm,
Yeah.
huge difference.
Yeah.
I would've thought it.
Yeah, I know, a huge difference. For you. Yeah.
Okay, so then I will add, looking at, the Single Country Club, and see what else might be along that corridor. So,
Yeah, I think you'll find more on that corridor than Weddington.
oh,
Yeah,
yes.
there's all kinds of-
Yes,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
um. What I wanted to talk, and not for the commission to make a decision, we still have time. But I printed out the early vote list for the primary. Like I said, this is just the primary. Looking at voter turnout for the primary, like I said, it is always much lower than what we have for the general election. So I think we need to be kind of aware of that, and maybe we have sites, maybe we might have too many sites open for too many days. So I wanted to kind of look at a couple of things, with you in regards to that. So if we look down at the limited early voting, we initially had room reservations for Tuesday for both Fayetteville and Springdale. And that would have them open for 4 days apiece. I really think for the primary, like I said, we can build to the general. Being just open the 3 days, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I think that Tuesday, I think that the voter turnout won't be enough to justify maybe having it open for 4 days. It also allows our team to go in on Tuesday and set up. Monday is a holiday, not that we'll be taking Monday off, but I'm just saying that it gives. Well, that was gonna be the thing for the Fayetteville Public Library. We're gonna have to go in Monday night at 8 PM to set up,
Yeah.
to be open on Tuesday. So there are some things that, for our team, it would be easier if we could set up those 2 sites on Tuesday and then be open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Then, the alumni hall, the same thing, we had it open for 4 days, I think 3 days for the primary election. Allowing us to come in on Monday rather than Sunday, and be open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for the alumni hall. Now, for the general election, we'll work on Sunday. I'm not saying we won't work on Sunday, but I'm just saying, if we're looking at overall voter turnout, I think the 3 days would be sufficient at the alumni hall for the primary election. The same thing with Nazarene. They're available for us for all week. But I do wonder if we don't want to maybe just do the Thursday and Friday and mimic what we're doing in Lincoln, Sonora, and Farmington, and just be open those.
Okay.
days.
Now, question, and this is a general question. If indeed we close down for part of the week, for, I guess specifically from Nazarene, are they gonna kind of go, well, this is not really worth our time?
So for Nazarene, they don't have Wednesday services. So we're not impacting anything that the church, that they don't have a preschool there. They don't have Wednesday services, so we're not impacting anything for them.
I just don't want anybody to think that, well, you're reducing it and therefore it's not worth our time at this point.
No, not at all. In
Okay.
fact, we could be in there for 2 weeks if we felt like we
Yeah.
needed to be in there for
Right.
2 weeks. Because of what they do have going on at the church.
Mhm.
Nazarene is gonna be one of those sites, though, that we will have to go in and completely tear down and set everything
Sunday.
aside before Sunday services. But I do think, looking at Nazarene, having it open is something to think about. And then for on Saturday voting,
Well, let's say.
okay, limited early and figure it out, okay.
Let's not-
So,
I understand the thought process here, you gotta
Mhm.
come in at 8 o'clock on Monday night and set up to have Tuesdays open. I understand that is something of value to discuss and determine whether or not it's worth it. I haven't quite caught on to why you're thinking, I'm assuming all the ones that are highlighted gray are, the ones that you would wanna not do instead of not have open instead of having open. I don't understand these.
Okay. So the Alumni Center and Civic Center would also require us to go in on Sunday to set up for those to be open as well, which we will do. And that's, I'm not saying that we won't do the work, because we will do the work.
Yeah.
So that would be my only suggestion. And one of the reasons I am looking at the overall voter turnout is so slow for a primary election. If you look back up at Weddington, for instance, which is a major site that we have open for early vote, the first week of early vote in 2020 and the first week of early vote in 2016, it did 345 voters. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's not us doing the work, but it's also how many votes are being cast. And as much as we want to push early vote, and I will be thrilled if the numbers are like through the roof.
Right.
But when I look back at 2016, 2018, 2020, and 22, early vote for the primary, the numbers are just not there. And I want us to be prudent, not only with our time, but the cost of opening so many early vote sites. I think we get a much better turnout for the general election, and we, will sit there and they might have 7 voters come in all day. And that's 5 people at a polling location. So that's the only reason I took a second look at some of the sites and the length of amount we had open. The general election, as many days as we can have. 100%, but for the primary, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
But if
Sure.
the commission, wants to do more, I'm more than happy. This is just something to think
I
about.
understand, and I am also disappointed that early voting is not as robust as we think it should be, and it should be. And I can tell you that there's more and more push among the people that I know to try to increase that. And rather than not open the locations, I would probably stand firm in trying to get them open and have them there and available.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thought is not dissimilar, but if it's gonna require you to come in at late the night before, I think you could cut one day, and you could cut one day on these if you have to come in on Sunday, but keep the American Legion open on a Saturday, maybe. If you want Nazarene open Tuesday, Wednesday, I think that's totally fine. That would be my thought.
Yeah.
But
and-
then my only other question is going to be the next one, Saturday and Monday.
Okay.
Well, but I was trying to stay in the.
Yeah.
But yeah, my comment goes to all of it, so.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the sites that I have, Alumni, Nazarene, and Civic Center would have us come in on Sunday to set up. Whereas we could come in on Monday, set up, and then they could be open. And we can have Nazarene open more days. That's just, so for us to kind of think about.
Well, I think it's good to be talking about it and
Yeah.
no reason not to make decisions,
And I'm just basing it just on the
Sure.
number of votes cast on those days.
Right, I understand, I guess my, rose colored glasses about, people coming out to vote, really, are pretty rose.
Well, that's why I wanted to give you these little numbers so you can see what I'm talking about, why, like,
Yeah, that's historic.
yeah,
It's not robust, it's not
it is not,
good.
it's not.
And, there's a lot of discussion going on, not necessarily just locally, but across the nation about that. About, early voting being, something that needs to be, better accepted. There's some parts of the, voting public that, don't think, early voting is what they ought to be doing, and I think they should.
Hey, like I said, I agree. We've been pushing it for years. Like I said, don't think about it as early voting and election day. Think about it as a 2-week voting period, right? You got 2 weeks to vote.
And if you wait till the last day and you have a snowstorm, what happens?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But no, I agree. So look, humans are procrastinators, right? We all are. Everybody is.
Sure.
And so I think my big point, and we've talked about this many times, is the last 2 days of early voting have the fewest number of sites. And I get it, we're prepping for election day, but people are, I want to early vote. I put it off
Get in
until
before
the
the
last
crowd.
minute. Yeah, exactly. And then Monday is the busiest day of early vote, always, right?
Right.
So I think my observation is if we, if it's slower week one, if it's slower Mondays or presents difficulty, that's fine, cut the days, but I want more days on that Saturday, March 2nd. That's the last Saturday. People work during the week, they have kids, they have errands to run after work. It's hard for people to get out and vote. Saturday, they have more opportunity to do it. And then I know I get all the points about Monday, but then at the same time, that's when people are coming out and really thinking about it. So at least Saturday, if we can be open more locations on
So
Saturday, I
We
feel like
can,
that would be beneficial.
we can add Weddington and American Legion to that. They both would be available for us to be open on those Saturdays. And American Legion, but I just wanna give you some historical numbers.
Yeah.
Just, to think about. In 2020 at Town, that last Saturday, they did 50 voters.
Yeah.
At the Covenant, they did 127. At, let's see. $197 at the Corn Port, and Elmdale did 127. And that's, I know the Saturdays, that's the last Saturday, but when you look
Yeah.
at the actual voter turnout, it's
Not as
just,
high.
it's
Not
not
terribly.
What about, and we've talked about it, we don't have to really get into it, but what about the Monday? Do you have the capacity at some point to try a couple other locations in addition to it? or-
Okay, the only other one I would say if we were to do, would be to do Elmdale. But
On Monday.
I am still so hesitant about doing that because they close at 5, which means that all their stuff has to be brought back to us Monday night. The ballots, the sticks have to be changed out, the poll books have to be changed out. Everything has to be reset for election day. Also at Elmdale, we have to tear down on Saturday, and then they would have to set back up
'Cause of the
Sunday
church
night
service.
because of
Yeah.
church services. And I know that the heavy voter turnout on Monday seems heavy at the courthouse because we don't have anything else open. But for me, logistically, I just look at it as we only have the one site, because the next day, I'm gonna have 42 sites open that they could go and vote at, but we'll make it work, but just logistically, and this is the control for me, is I'm gonna have to send a team out Elmdale to turn it over and bring the stuff back to us.
Yeah,
Already on top of a long day, then for us to prep to go into an even longer day errors day. But, I mean,
well, I
that's
guess
something,
the question is, would you have people who you could count on to do that effectively? You know what I mean? And you don't have to worry about it all.
Well,
much.
I mean, we would, and it's not just me though, it's the whole team, because we're also setting up other sites. We're also, like, that Monday, we're doing deliveries. And so we're also setting up 42 sites, answering 42 polling locations, questions, answers, getting them all set up. But, I mean,
I get it, and I'm not trying to you know, if you can't do it, I'm not trying to
I
push you
don't, I don't
guys
think
into
it's,
doing, but at the same time, there's always huge lines at the courthouse on that early voting Monday.
I don't think
I think
it's
you
so
can have-
much can't do it. As it really does simplify things to have the courthouse be the only place that you're focused on Monday. I'm thinking of it from, you've already done 2 weeks of early vote. Now on Monday, you're moving into a different mode of thinking. And one location is gonna be a whole lot better than, you know, having 3 or 4 that you've got to focus on, plus what you have to do the next day. I don't think that's, that's the way I'm trying to look at it in terms of how smooth it goes and the what I call it, everything has been set in place for a while, but you're right. To offset that, you do have a lot of people who stand in line. Some of them, I would suggest, enjoy standing in line. And that's why they come on Monday.
I don't think so.
And then
I
they're
disagree.
talking to
I mean,
each
they
other.
do, they have a good time. They're talking and then, you know, people are happy to do their voting. I agree with all that. I guess not that it's determinative. What other counties do? Does anybody?
That's a good question.
I'm just curious.
So a lot of counties, like, Pulaski County in previous years has gone down to just the one mandated site.
Mm,
Benton County has done a mix of both, where they've just had the courthouse is closed, or she's had just 1 or 2 sites open. And so it's a mix. I know that this year for early voting in Benton County, they're looking at just having they have the luxury of having 3 courthouses.
right.
Or 3, you know,
Yeah.
3
Yeah,
things
yeah.
where they.
Is that a luxury or is that an extra?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's how you look at it, but they
Yeah.
have 3 county clerks offices,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And so that makes it
Yes, you're
a
right.
little bit different. But for the primary, I know that she's just going to do the 3, and part of it is too, with the conversations I've had with Kim, is the weather. And I know that
Exactly,
seems
yeah.
silly to be thinking like so far ahead about the weather, but the past few years, we've had a weather event
Yes.
in the same time frame of early vote.
Yeah.
And I know that we've talked about, we could close, you know, we'll close everything except the courthouse. What worries me is, like, what do we do about deliveries? You know, there's just like so many different things
Yeah.
that go into it
Very good.
that I just, you know, having the one site open for me makes it simpler and
Yeah.
easier to maintain and control. I'm not opposed, you know, to us doing the work. I don't want you to think
Yeah.
it's a
Oh, no.
lot of work. I'm just saying.
I
for-
get it. I'm
for
just raising
me,
the
it's-
question. I'm not pushing it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be overstretched and then for there to be higher likelihood of.
And that's.
Yeah.
Something goes wrong, yeah.
And that's also too, this is the first time we'll be canvassing in one location and then having to move
Yeah.
things to another location, to have to move things to another location. So maybe if we do the primary and everything goes
Well, I've
smooth
got it.
for the general.
Yeah.
I agree with for the general.
You'd be more comfortable with it at
The
that point.
primary is just, yeah,
I have 2 questions.
okay.
The first question is, can we look, I think we can we look at, 20 and 20, I say, vote totals at the courthouse on Monday and see where the voters came from?
Oh, I'll have to look at where the voters came from. If you look at 2020, 1863 voted at the courthouse, and 2016, 2,194 voted
Yeah,
at the
but we
courthouse.
don't know
That'll take a
whether
deeper
they
in.
drove in from somewhere else. I mean, what's the value or are they all from
Fayetteville.
Fayetteville? If they're all from Fayetteville, does it make sense to really consider opening at least one place in
Another
like
place,
that?
yeah.
You know,
I will have to look, that I don't know where they came from on that, the people on Monday.
The other thing I guess, again, I probably should know this, but I'm kind of surprised seeing courthouse open, for voting on Saturdays.
It has to be,
It
It's-
that's part of the law.
yes, it's
Okay.
that.
I knew that the law was that we had to have voting there. I didn't know it. So
Yeah.
it was, okay,
It, the courthouse matches the required dates
Sure.
open.
I got it.
So
And I'll
far,
remember it next week.
and I don't want you to take my reluctance at not being open at other locations, it's not. I just,
Hey, I get it, we talked about it, but I just want to raise it again.
Yeah.
It's all good. Anyway, I think this all looks great. other
Yeah,
than what
I
we talked about.
agree. I agree what you're saying about, not opening on Tuesday on some of these sites. The voters have to respond by coming. That's what justifies opening more sites in some respects. And if there, I mean, there's no point in wasting time for people, at least sitting somewhere to, not have people voting.
Sure, you gotta manage the resources.
Yeah.
I agree.
okay. So Tuesday and Wednesday for Springdale Public Library, that would be closed, so we would set up. And then it would only
Wait a minute, wait a minute, Tuesday and Wednesday, you're
I'm
saying?
sorry, Tuesday,
Okay,
I looked at Tuesday.
Okay.
Sorry.
The
Yeah.
two libraries, they
Yeah.
would be open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. The Alumni Center, we would be closed on Monday for setup, it
Yeah.
would be open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
same with the other two.
Yeah.
Nazarene closed on Monday, we set up for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Nazarene.
Right.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for Civic Center, Fridays are not available.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why there's that inconsistent. Okay,
Okay.
It's fine.
American Legion in the top part, you want to open it on Saturday.
Well, I mean, maybe, I guess it depends, you know, Elmdale's down the road. I don't know.
Closed.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't disagree if you're trying to manage resources effectively. Maybe it makes sense to close it. I don't know.
And a lot of this is, especially with American Legion, since we haven't really had them on a presidential year rotation, right?
I mean, I think I'd be more inclined to close it first Saturday and open.
That's
it
what I was
second.
thinking.
Yeah, you got a bunch of them open on the first Saturday
Oh, good.
and just not that
Yeah.
many the second one.
Yeah, that's good.
And then you talked about opening American Legion and Weddington on the second Saturday, potentially.
Yes, they are, I am pretty positive that she told me they would be available on Saturday. American Legion is available on that Saturday as well. The only reason I had kind of looked at not having them open is we will have to tear down Weddington and move to another place after it's closed. That Saturday at 4, American Legion will stay, Elmdale has to be torn down and then set back up, but we can manage that. So, so on that Saturday, it would be the courthouse, Weddington, American, Elmdale, and Contingtown.
Okay, and I noticed that you've got in both weeks, you've got Tawnytown and Elmdale in yellow.
Yes, those days are Contingtown, those 2 days, we have to close early at like 3:30 because they have a city council meeting. So those are another day that we'll have to go back in late that night and set back up. Elmdale, it's the same thing.
Wednesday,
So 2
okay.
Wednesdays for church. But I think for the primary election, because of, if you look at Elmdale, which week 1 is 368, week 2, and that's like for the whole week. That's not like a day. Is 368 and 486. And then if you look, it was 920. We didn't have it open in, or a secondary site open in, that area. It was 920 for the whole week. I think we're gonna actually see if we can't just set up in one half of the gym that we don't have to tear down. I'm gonna visit with them on that and figure out a plan for us
Okay.
there that'll make it a little bit easier for us in regards to the tear down. But I mean, as much as, you know, I want to encourage voting and have as many opportunities for voters to vote, I also, when I look back at the numbers historically for the primary, now the general election,
Yeah, well, look, that's fine, I get it.
whatever we have open, the more we have open, the
Yeah.
better, but this just, I want us to be responsible too.
Well, the numbers at Elkins are pretty disappointing.
So I completely agree. Yeah, I know. And we had talked about trying Elkins, and then if it didn't perform well, cutting it down.
So
Yeah.
So we may want to consider doing that.
now you could look at Elkins and only have it open for 1 week of early
I
vote.
kind of
Now,
feel like that makes sense. I mean,
Same here.
look at the
Yeah.
numbers, you
Yeah.
know, 131 people for the whole first week and then 177 for the second week. Kind of feel like it makes sense to have it for 1 week.
And West Fork isn't far different.
Oh, I don't disagree, 132 for the first week and then 269 for the second week. I mean, there are smaller areas, they're significantly
Right.
smaller
Yes.
areas. And if you're looking at resources and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
equipment and people to serve the registered voters who,
Right.
which you were trying to serve, you know, it's better spent. other
Well, I
places with
guess the
registered
question
voters.
is, could we condense them down so they only came the last week
Yeah,
instead of
well, I
spreading it over two?
certainly think you could.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 week of early voting in both those locations, still a big opportunity for early voting.
Right, right.
And that would save resources.
Definitely
Yeah,
it
for sure.
would. Maybe we do that.
and,
I think we do it.
okay,
It sounds like everybody's on board.
and the goal of having Elkins and West Fork open to alleviate what happens on election day
Mhm.
definitely is beneficial. But when you do look at the voter turnout, having it maybe only open for the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are gonna naturally vote that last.
Right,
week.
they
That's all it's
do.
open.
And you can see that in the numbers at all the locations, like the
For
very
Sure,
last. week,
yeah, for
it-
sure.
It does.
Yeah, I
Well-
just feel like that is,
And then I think a
a
consideration
better use of
is
resources.
gonna be if you're opening. If you're opening, where is it on there? Where's Farmington on?
Farmington is gonna be the last 2 days,
Oh,
that
that's
Thursday
it.
and Friday.
I,
But if you
Yeah.
want
I,
Farmington-
look, the way that I think about it, a lot of people from Prairie Grove are coming in and commuting in and driving on that road, and they're gonna be driving right by Farmington. Farmington's way closer to a big population center with Fayetteville. It's a larger area and community than Prairie Grove. I would suggest considering a week in Prairie Grove and then a whole week in Farmington.
So, well, we would want to keep 2 weeks in Prairie Grove, right?
Well, I don't know, maybe. Defer to you. What do you think?
I almost think
Yeah.
yes, because that, when you look at the numbers I have for election day, our growth is in Farmington and
That's
Prairie
true.
Grove.
Yeah.
And Farmington, I think too, would pull some voters out from from Highway 16 or from 16 as well.
Definitely.
So we would add to Farmington.
What if we did? What if we
Tuesday,
did?
Wednesday and
Yeah,
Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, then that would match that, what I mean.
Exactly.
Okay. And I think that the facility we're gonna be at in Farmington, I don't think that's an issue. I'll just need to visit with the pastor because of Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I think he was willing to work with us about the space we're using. And so you're talking of possibly doing Elkins and West Fork for 1 week of early vote for the primary. This is for the
Yeah.
general. I
Yeah.
think that the numbers.
We'll just see
Yeah,
how the
let's look
numbers
at the
go,
numbers,
but yeah,
yeah.
for the primary,
Yeah,
I feel like that's makes a whole lot of sense.
I agree. Get rid of Elkins and West Fork the first week and
So the people
hopefully they
that-
multiply the second.
So those people that, those few people who voted in the first week at Elkins and Westport would have medical arts.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, that's
driving in
true.
On by
Medical
medical
arts
arts.
and the Farmington, Main Street Baptist
Mhm.
locations
Mhm.
to go to instead,
Yeah,
but not in the first. week.
Yeah, not the first week,
but they've got a whole second,
right,
which really with these numbers.
Well, medical arts is there for health. They have.
True.
medical arts.
Yeah, they're the first week.
But, Farmington Place, is not open the first week to replace that.
But they still have a whole week, which I feel like is fine, especially.
I agree. I agree.
Elkins in 2022 did that first week, 45 voters,
Oh.
37,
Wow.
36,
Yeah.
or no, hold on, 45, 37, 42, 40, 25, and then on 79.
So it's like 120, 130.
Yeah, it's that 130.
Oh, that's what they're.
Or that's for 20, yeah. In 2020 or 2016, they weren't open,
Mm.
but in 2020, they did 36, 24, 26, 28, and 17, and 17,
Yeah, you're talking 8 hour days,
10-hour days.
you have less $4 an hour. I mean,
Wow,
all right, well, let's do that.
yeah, I agree.
Those are my main comments. I feel like I'm good with it all at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless you come up with some
Yep.
huge arguments to say otherwise.
So I will reset
Okay.
this out. Like I said, the
Perfect.
commission does
I think
not
that'd be
have
great.
have to vote on this today.
Yeah.
This is just- But I do think that, I'll redo this with all the suggestions. I will confirm with Farmington that,
Cool.
but
Oh,
I'm almost positive we were good to have the site, the place we're gonna be at, for Tuesday and Wednesday.
Good deal. All right.
Okay. We'll look at that later. I'm sorry, review of offsite early. You've
We're
got,
gonna review this today, right?
Yes, I'm gonna bring,
Bring this back, I gotta think about this, I'm not. sure.
oh, okay, so let's look at it.
I will redo this with, I'll send you two, one that was the original, one that was the suggested, so that you can look at it and make your.
Okay, let's talk election day then.
So Jim had asked me about election day site and, the growth and where are the voters at. So I pulled, from the 2020 and 2016, both the primary and the general numbers of voter turnout at each site. And then I pulled the number of registered voters that are located in those areas where we have those polling locations. And so you'll see, I've highlighted the 3 or the 4 places where we've had the most growth in registered voters. I can't track how many people live in a place.
Right.
I'm only tracking registered voters because
Sure.
that's who can show up to vote.
And you're only tracking the voters who are assigned in the precincts to each location, right?
Yes, and we went ahead and kept, even though we do vote centers, we went ahead and kept precincts assigned to those vote centers because it's in that area.
Yeah,
And so.
so this is a suggestion of potential turnout, but it's not necessarily determined, just because you can have people from other locations.
Sure,
Right.
but we typically only have about less. Central does 50% of voters from all over the county. But most locations do between 15 and 10, but closer to 10% of voters who don't live in their area. So that is not as big of a number. In smaller sites out in rural Washington County,
Oh, I
it's
believe,
even,
I believe
it's even
that,
lower.
yeah.
But if you look, Covenant, Farmington, Prairie Grove, and Tawny Town is where you had your growth of voters.
Okay. I mean, that all seems great. Got a really well location, you know.
Yeah, and that was,
Places.
that was kind of nice too, when I looked at that, I was like, we're adding that.
You say the growth of voters, this is growth of people who voted or growth of?
Registered.
This is registered voters,
Okay.
from 2016.
What are these?
So earlier this year in 2023, I pulled the registration numbers at the beginning of the year.
That's what the earlier.
Yes, and then October 23rd is, I had just pulled the numbers this week. You'll see that they've gone down. They're going to go back up.
Oh.
We'll
What's
see.
that, a voter purge?
So this growth.
Oh,
Is
okay.
the difference between those first two numbers?
These two columns earlier in 2016. I used the higher number because I know the
So
numbers are gonna go back up.
Currently, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. And so you'll see where we've lost footage, you'll see where it's kind of flat. You'll see where there's been some growth, but not at the numbers of what we see at, especially like Covenant and Tawny Town. And if you look at look at the number of registered voters at Sang, that's one area that might go back up just because.
Well, yeah, they're kicking them off the rolls,
What, so.
right?
That.
I mean, isn't
Yeah,
that,
but
isn't
it
that the
is.
answer? That's the,
This is, yes,
it's,
these
they're
are,
sporadic voters and they don't vote
Okay.
every single time and they haven't voted in 2 federal election cycles.
Okay.
And so they're kicking them off the rolls.
Yeah,
And so a lot of those folks are gonna show back up and try to vote and they're gonna find out that even though they voted before,
yeah.
they can't vote this
Yeah.
time.
Well, I
That's
was
the-
voted in
it's-
2016.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's not a population change in that area.
Right, it's
Or
just
not
the number of
significant,
registered
it's just
voters.
registered voters.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe that tells us we need to publicize a little bit that, hey, if you haven't voted lately, check your registration.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Ties
we
in
need to,
with the information we put on our website and all
Yes.
of that, QR
Yes.
codes, the whole thing. I'm with you.
right,
so when you look at another one I wanted to show you is the Springdale Civic Center. You see it has the most registered voters that are
Mhm.
tied to that specific place. If we open up American Legion, which I think the commission had been all in favor of opening up American Legion, that will pull roughly 3,000 voters from that area to the American Legion.
yeah,
And so that will bring that Civic Center number down. Now, these big sites that have the big numbers like Civic Center, Genesis, or not Genesis, but like Trinity Fellowship. And Sequoia is another site that has a lot of registered voters in it. We're in gymnasiums in those sites.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have the
Yeah.
space to manage that voter turnout, and I've shown you the voter turnout too, which is another significant thing to look at as well. This is why, as I was running all these numbers yesterday, if you look, the voter turnout for the primary on election day, even though we have only 50% of total voters vote, is as high as what the general election voter turnout is, or people wise. But like for a general, you have a 65% overall voter turnout. For a primary, you have a 50% overall voter turnout. But they don't early vote for the primary. They're waiting to vote election day. That's why the numbers look
Yeah, got it.
That's striking.
it really is. We know on election day for the primary, we're busier at our polling locations than we are for the general
Yeah.
elections.
So interesting.
And I think the changes that we've discussed here aren't going to impact
Right, right.
our election day turnout based on previous records.
Yeah.
Now, if they show up and vote early, that's great, because that just means less
Okay.
voters on election day, but.
So these last 4 columns are actual votes. This 65-50% column,
This
tell me
60,
what that means.
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't put a
No,
header,
it's a
no,
good
it's, I didn't put a header there, so 65% voter turnout based on that earlier 2023 number with 50% election day voting.
That's a projection.
That's strict projection.
Yeah.
Based on historical data, 65% is about the highest we've had for a general election,
So 65%,
total registered voters.
total registered voters, and that they vote at a 50%, turnout. Okay, I got it.
Or they vote 50% on election day. Yeah, so I took
50%.
65% of the total registered voters,
All the people who are gonna vote.
all the registered voters.
What you expect.
Yeah.
And then I take that number and I do 50% of that, because 50% of them are gonna vote
Okay.
election day,
So you-
50% are gonna vote early vote. And that's how I calculate what to expect at the polling
Got it.
locations.
Got it. For election day.
Right.
Okay.
But this is on the high end. We hope for
Clearly,
65% voter turnout and 65% early vote. But I want to
yeah.
plan
Yeah,
on the high number.
Okay. So the high number is 65%. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
That's that's in, that works with what I looked at and, saw on the numbers that you gave me before, so I understand that now.
Okay.
So now, this number 873 then is based on the 65% of the total voters, is that what that is? Or
It's
is it,
based on the 65% of the total registered voters in.
oh, this is the election day information.
Mhm.
So, okay, election day is 50%.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
So I took 65% of 2685 for Archer. And I said 65% of those voters are gonna show up and vote. But 50% of them are gonna vote early and 50% are gonna vote election day. So what would be my number at my poll on election day? If you'll see though, that number is high compared to actual voter turnout. But it gives me something to plan for, like I know that that's gonna be my
Well,
high.
these 65% for the whole, block, it's for everybody. And you can't, if you apply this to each one of these, in some cases, your number may be higher,
It is
than your.
actual turnout. It is, but it tells me that at Civic Center, I need to have X amount of stuff. I
To
need
be
To
prepared.
be prepared. It just kind of gives me,
Yeah.
I look at the historical
Yeah.
data. But this gives me the math.
This is good info, thank you.
yeah, it is, and we'll have to pour over it some more. Okay, other business, y'all.
Not for me, not me.
Our next meeting is election night,
Wow.
unless we have something come up between now and then.
January 5th is our deadline to determine
Okay.
location.
Okay.
I would like us to though have it determined by. And the reason being is that after we do the ballot draw, if we have the polling location set and early vote set,
Yeah.
we can publish all of that at the same time, and then all of that information is kind of going out on voters.
Yeah, there's no reason to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we've got it nailed down.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you get to take, your training?
No, I didn't. I had a doctor's appointment that day. I wasn't able to make it, so no.
So you're not official?
Yeah, I know, right? So they're gonna offer a makeup training.
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
John said that after they finish doing the remaining sessions, they'll reach out to those that couldn't come.
Cool.
They'll offer one in Little Rock, and then those who can't go, they'll offer, if you're
Way.
an experienced commissioner, then they'll offer, I think, them online or something like that.
Good. Good deal.
Well, we have it.
Y'all better next time when I can get to do that.
Yeah. It's fun.
Oh, man,
Yes.
I thought this is. You know.
So long.
Well, not just that, but that you got.
Areas,
you've got, Chris,
You know,
you got Dave, and
different
sometimes Danny
I
says
mean,
some
people go
things.
in different sections.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that last time, it was just like.
And so it's like, really?
Yeah.
And I did take the test, so there is a test afterwards that you get in your email.
I do remember that. Yeah.
But, you know, it was.
That. I
Okay.
gotta get fixed information.
Oh, and, oh, I'm sorry, are we